I'm Nick Palmisano, and this is the Bad News Network. This week marked the 75th anniversary of D-Day, which is one of the most iconic moments in military history and the largest beach landing ever. Now, you may be thinking that because this was a beach landing, it was probably a Marine endeavor. You'd be wrong, though. The largest beach landing ever executed was done by the Army. At the official D-Day celebration, President Trump gave what many people believe was the finest speech of his career, even garnering praise from Joe Scarborough and Jim Acosta, two guys that pretty much hate him. But you know who wasn't impressed? Russia. They put out a comment on their official social media that D-Day wasn't that big of a deal and that the real game changer was on the Eastern Front. Look, we love you guys too. Quit Stalin. Just come in for a hug. No one's Putin you down. You'll have a lot more success in the international community if you just try letting your guard down. You guys put in a Chernobyl effort. Just continue to crush Chev the hell out of life and things will go your way. Sorry about that. We may have gone too tsar. Большое спасибо. On a more serious note, it's hard to imagine what it would have been like on that day, whether you were flying over a land that you had never visited, about to jump out in a then untested method of engaging in warfare as a paratrooper, or if you were riding one of those tiny tin boats with bullets whizzing overhead and right through your boat on your way to a beach that was a near certain death sentence. It's truly unfathomable. And even if you lived through the day, there was still a year of war and battles to come. Only about 36 veterans were able to make the event this year, which is roughly 1/10 the number of veterans that were present only 5 years ago. 97-year-old Tom Rice was one of them, however, and he opted to jump in one more time. The near centurion decided last year that he was going to do this and put in a year of physical therapy in order to make sure that he was strong enough to withstand the jump. Once a paratrooper, always a paratrooper. This week, we're lucky enough to have our friend Matt Griffin from Combat Flip-Flops on the ground in Normandy. Matt actually volunteered to do the jump this year and has been training for that for the last 3 months. He's now going to tell us what it's been like to be there this week.
Good morning, this is Griff with the Bad News Network, here with Combat Flip-Flops, American Freedom Distillery, and a bunch of Rangers from 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Battalion, preparing for the 75th anniversary of D-Day. So the good news is all the battalions and Rangers from all generations have descended upon this spot today to pay homage and tribute to those who came before us and inspire those that are coming after us. And they're going to scale the cliffs tomorrow, June 6th for D-Day. So the good news is that we're all here together paying homage and tribute. The bad news is this is going to be the last large congregation of World War II veterans. So as you go forward on this D-Day, commemorate those that came behind us, inspire those that come after us, and do good things for the world. Rangers lead the way.
Thanks, Griff. We appreciate it.
Pfizer is in hot water this week for a little tiny mistake. Super tiny. No big deal. Just the fact that they discovered that rheumatoid arthritis drug, Enbrel, likely reduces the risk of Alzheimer's by 64%, and then decided it wasn't worth investing in, but also didn't make the data public so that other people could be helped. So for some reason, people are a little bit upset about that. Weird. It's not like it's a debilitating, soul-crushing disease that not only affects the person who has it, but everybody who's around them. It's just a tiny oversight. Everybody needs to chill.
Strange things are afoot at the Circle YouTube. Carlos Maza and Steven Crowder are having a war, and their battlefield is YouTube. If you've never heard of Maza, that's not necessarily surprising. He's a Vox reporter who hates capitalism, loves Marxism, thinks Tucker Carlson is a white supremacist, and his Twitter handle is gaywonk. He's also a big fan of milkshaking, where you dump milkshakes on people that have different political views than you. If you're not so progressive that you hate America, you're probably not on El Mismo Pagina as Mr. Maza. On the other side is Steven Crowder, a right-wing shock jock that is known for using offensive humor to make political points. He literally has a shirt that says, "Socialists are figs," with the insinuation that perhaps they are something other than a fig. Neither man here is innocent, and the two absolutely do not like each other. Maza has bashed him for years, and Crowder has been only too happy to fire back. Candidly, they're good for each other's business, as their constant ire back and forth gets lots of views and clicks. Maza has strung together in one video all of the times that Crowder has used homophobic slurs against him, and it's not pretty. Do I think he hates gay people? I don't think so. He certainly says he doesn't. Do I get the sense that he's comfortable using inappropriate sexual attacks on Maza because he hates him? Yes, I do. Would I feel good about myself if somebody showed me a video, even if it was over a couple of years, dropping all of those attacks against somebody? No, I wouldn't. Not only is it dehumanizing, but it's lazy. Crowder is plenty smart enough to go after Maza's ideas, which are terrible, without having to go after his sexual orientation. But Maza is riding the blowback from this video to an entirely different objective. He wants to deplatform Crowder. I'm sure it is mere coincidence that he happened to kick this video off at the beginning of Pride Month. Props to you for excellent marketing, Mr. Maza. YouTube has responded that Crowder will no longer be able to monetize his videos anymore. Hours later, they tweaked that to state monetization would be allowed again once Crowder took down his socialism is for figs shirt. So now Crowder fans are mad at YouTube for kowtowing to the left, and Maza fans think that YouTube is a bully-supporting, homophobic, evil entity that should burn in the pits of hell for all time. And all of that raises once again the question of what are the limits of free speech as it pertains to the mega powerhouse social media outlets? These are private companies, so on the face of it, they should be able to control their own rules. Nevertheless, these two private companies essentially control all of social media, and beyond that, they control all of advertising. They are skirting the lines of being a utility, and any hard stance that they make against any kind of speech, even mean or inappropriate speech, starts raising the question of, should they get to determine what people say? Are they a publisher or are they a service? If they're a service, they need to err on the side of getting out of the way. If they're a publisher, they need to police all posts. I, for one, am always in favor of more free speech. Bad, malicious, mean, ill-informed speech can always be countered with better speech. You do not want a situation where these platforms are starting to be considered left or right. This already happens with the news, and it's been incredibly counterproductive, as basically now people from both sides, anytime they don't like something, they basically revert to saying this is fake news, or this isn't real, or that source is biased, or this doesn't count because. We don't need that problem exacerbated.
Charlie Winter, a Marine veteran and firefighter, saved his daughter's life this week when she was attacked by a shark in North Carolina. Charlie did this by repeatedly punching the shark in the face. Now, if that's not the most Marine way to solve a problem, I don't know what is. His daughter did have to have her leg amputated, but she said in a statement that she is doing well and appreciates everyone's support.
The William Harvey Research Institute has just published a new study saying it is okay to go coffee crazy. Previous studies have suggested that coffee is great for kidney function and also may be a way of warding off Alzheimer's by keeping the mind sharp and activated. But there have been some concerns in the past that coffee might do long-term damage to arteries. This study says otherwise. Dr. Kenneth Fung, who led this research effort, analyzed over 8,000 people broken into 3 groups, ranging from people who casually drank coffee to people that drank more than 25 cups a day. The result? Fung believes it's safe to drink up to 25 cups of coffee a day without issue. Oh yeah. So no, I will not be cutting down. I'm basically this guy.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
You know, but with coffee.
Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google are about to get a deep cavity inspection by the U.S. government. The Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice, who spearhead antitrust laws, have divided oversight over the 4 companies. Amazon and Facebook will be under the FTC, and Google and Apple will be under the Department of Justice. The real questions are these companies too big? Are they using their size and influence to squeeze out other smaller competitors? None of these companies have come forward for comment, but Donald Trump has called for closer scrutiny of social media companies, accusing them of suppressing conservative voices online. He has also repeatedly accused Amazon of taking advantage of the U.S. Postal Service. Now, you can decide whether his motives are altruistic or not, but the bottom line is the U.S. would be far better served without just a handful of companies exerting total control over the market. Banks! Excuse me. Banks.
Tragedy struck at West Point this week during summer training when a tactical vehicle flipped over, killing one cadet and injuring 20 more cadets and soldiers. I was speaking to a few West Pointers that I know about this, and it's kind of a weird situation because of all the dangerous things that you do in the military, West Point typically isn't one of those things. It's probably the last place you'd expect a casualty. But thinking about this really exposes the reality of military training. It's always dangerous. 742 men died in the practice run for D-Day. Soldiers die every day from vehicle-related injuries or even heat casualties from road marches. When I was a cadet, 4 Ranger students, including 2 recent graduates, died at Ranger School from hypothermia. Since 2006, only 1/4 of all service member casualties have come from war. The rest came from training or other incidents. The military is a dangerous place, whether it's peacetime or wartime. We thank all of those involved in the incident for their commitment to the nation. And to all graduates watching this closely, grip hands.
42-year-old German serial killer Niles Hoger was sentenced to his second life sentence this week after killing his 85th patient. Originally, he was charged with the deaths of 100 people, but they had to drop the charges on 15 because they didn't have enough evidence. To discuss those 15 cases, however, we go to Ranger Up analyst Zach Bender.
Yeah, you probably killed all those people.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Zach.
Gaming has become this generation's professional sports, with top online gamers fetching 5-figure salaries per hour for things like Twitch streams. For those of you recruiting, I would like to remind you all that in 1987, I beat 89 Nintendo games in one summer. So, you know, I'm available.
Baltimore Mayor Jack Young is catching a little flack this week for suggesting that the answer to gun violence in Baltimore could be setting up public boxing rings so that people with beef could get in there, square up, and settle it the old-fashioned way with a little knuckle chucking. Why is this a bad idea? This is basically how it's worked for every generation up until the millennial generation. And then parents started coming down on fist fighting and schools started expelling kids just for getting into what it would otherwise be a kid fight. And now you have kids who don't know how to deal with their emotions and instead they go home, bottle it all up, steal their parents' gun and go out and shoot people. Let's get back to punching people is what I say. I'm with you, Jack Young.
Congressional Democrats are pushing for a raise for Congress. If I got a vote, it would be this. And finally, I've got a big, sexy Florida man hook for you. A Florida man stole a car, killed a dog, then killed some chickens, then chased a man while brandishing an axe, and then was found naked, passed out in a chicken coop by New York State Police. John Mena, 25, of Sarasota, Florida, was arrested on Tuesday when the Audi that he stole from Florida was found parked the wrong way on Interstate 81. Now that's roughly 3 miles from the Pennsylvania border. That's a hell of a Tuesday. And with that, I'm Nick Palmisano, and this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already, and I'd just like to take this moment to honor the greatest generation. Thank you very much, gentlemen.